Alex was doing what every good manager does when things go wrong. He was working harder, longer hours, more meetings, more oversight, more of himself poured into every corner of the operation. And the plant kept bleeding. In 1984, a man named Eliyahu Goldratt published a novel. Not a business book, a novel. It told the story of a plant manager named Alex Rogo, who had exactly 90 days to turn around a manufacturing facility or watch it get shut down. The plant was losing money, shipments were late, inventory was piling up everywhere, and Alex was doing what every good manager does when things go wrong. He was working harder, longer hours, more meetings, more oversight, more of himself poured into every corner of the operation. And the plant kept bleeding. One evening, Alex ran into an old acquaintance, a physicist named Jonah. They hadn't seen each other in years. Alex started explaining the situation, how hard the team was working, how many improvements they'd made, how much effort was going into fixing the problems. And Jonah listened. And then he asked one question: "Are you making more money?" Alex paused. "No." "Then nothing you just described is an improvement." Alex went quiet because he had spent 90 days running faster than a treadmill that wasn't getting him anywhere. He wasn't solving the problem, he was managing the symptoms. And somewhere inside that plant, invisible, unexamined, untouched, was the one thing holding everything back. He just hadn't looked for it yet. That novel was called The Goal, and the question Jonah asked Alex that night became one of the most important questions in operational thinking. Not what can we improve, or where are we working the hardest, but what is the constraint? What is the one thing, the single bottleneck that determines the output of the entire system? Goldratt called it the theory of constraints, and the core idea is almost insultingly simple. Every system has one constraint, one thing that limits everything else. And until you find that one thing and fix it, everything else you do is just noise. Alex spent weeks optimizing machines that weren't the bottleneck, improving processes that weren't slowing anything down, and working harder on things that didn't matter, while the real constraint sat untouched, quietly limiting every single thing he was trying to build. Sound familiar? The problem is almost never where you're looking. Founders are exceptional at identifying problems. What they're not always trained to do is identify which problem is actually the constraint. Because when everything else feels broken, the instinct is to fix everything simultaneously. New hire, new system, new process, new strategy. You start moving on 17 fronts at once, and then you wonder why nothing seems to actually move. And it's because you haven't found Alex's bottleneck yet. Here's the process I use inside our portfolio companies. Step 1, map where things stop moving. Not where things are slow, where they actually stop. There's a difference between a process that takes longer than it should and a process where work physically piles up and waits. That pile, wherever it is, that's your constraint. In Alex's plant, it was one specific machine. In your company, it might be a person, it might be a decision that can only be made by one human, it might be a number, a close rate, a conversion, a fulfillment capacity that caps how much can actually flow through. Find where things pile up, and that's where you start. Step 2, exploit the constraint before you do anything else. Before you hire around it, before you build a new system, before you do anything else, squeeze everything you can out of what you already have. Every minute the constraint is idle is a minute the entire system loses. Step 3, subordinate everything else to the constraint. It means that you are accepting that some parts of your business will run below their maximum capacity in order to keep the constraint moving. It feels inefficient, but it isn't, because a system is only as fast as its slowest point. Making everything else faster doesn't change the output, only fixing the constraint changes the output. We sat down with a founder recently who was exhausted. Good business, real revenue, a strong team, but nothing moving the way it should. And he had tried everything. New marketing approach, a new hire, a new reporting structure. And we spent the first 20 minutes listening to everything he'd already tried. And then we asked the question that Jonah asked Alex. Not, what have you improved, but what's the one place where work actually stops moving? And he thought about it. The close rate. Everything else in his business was functioning, but the close rate was sitting at a number that capped what every other part of the business could actually produce. So we didn't install a new system, we didn't install a new sales trainer, we fixed the specific part of the sales conversation that was losing people at the same moment every time. And 2 months later, everything started moving. Not because we fixed everything else, because we found the bottleneck and fixed that first. The Goal was published in 1984. It has sold millions of copies and it's still required reading at business schools around the world because Alex's problem is still happening every day in companies at every level. The 3 things to walk away with: find where things actually pile up. That's your constraint. 2, exploit it before you build anything new around it. And 3, subordinate everything else to keep it moving. Find that one thing, fix it first. And share this with a founder who is working themselves to the edge right now. Also, subscribe because next week I'm telling you the story of a man who couldn't leave his own company for 3 years. One decision gave him back his life.